All right, thanks for the nice introduction. It's great to be there virtually in Hawaii. I really miss Laie. I loved living there. I graduated in 2002, as mentioned, with an international business degree. And unfortunately, I haven't been back yet, but I'd like to come back soon. I have a growing family, a wife, and 3 kids going on 4 now, so it gets a little bit expensive flying from Michigan to Hawaii, but I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out somehow. It's great to be with you today. I think a mentor program is very valuable. I've used mentors in my career. So today I'd like to give you a little bit of background about myself, my experiences in Hawaii that I felt were valuable when I was a student at BYU Hawaii, and also talk about my career path since I left Hawaii, some of the things I've learned along the way. And then I'd also like to give you a few tips as you explore your career paths to think about what you want to do and how you can be successful if you already know what you want to do. So I'm going to switch between a slide presentation and a video of myself throughout the next 15-20 minutes or so. Right now I'm going to share a few pictures with you. So let me just share. I'm on the Google Hangout platform here. If you haven't used it, it's a fun way to connect with people anywhere in the world. So it's working well for this. Can you see the first slide there? Okay, is it working well, Corbin?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, great. This picture on the left is a picture of me when I was a student there in 2001. I played the role of recycling man for a school project. It was at Sunset Beach Elementary School. One of my business classes, we were to do something sustainable for business. So we went to the school and taught the kids how to recycle, and I was recycling man. I love that. I love doing projects like that because I feel like I'm contributing to the education of people and helping the world be a cleaner and a better place. So I just put in the caption, it doesn't get any better than this. I loved it when I was there in Hawaii. I was very happy. But it does get better as you get a family and children, as things progress. Life just continues to get better. So this is a picture of me and my wife and 3 kids. Picture taken in Michigan. Not a lot of surfing here, but just a fun picture on a car with a California license plate. Few memories I'd like to share with you about Hawaii and why I love BYU Hawaii so much. People are really nice there. It's so approachable, and I made so many good friends from all over the place. That was a picture of me, I think my first week in school back in 1996, and some of the friends I've made I'm still very close friends with today. So that would be my first bit of advice, is just make good friends with everyone that's around you and keep in touch with them. These are the people that make life more enjoyable. You know, whether somebody helps you professionally or not, it's just life is happier when you make a lot of good friends. This is a picture of me and my wife in the middle, up top down at Waikiki, where we are dating in Hawaii. The other picture on the right, I worked at the Polynesian Cultural Center as a tour guide, and then I worked in marketing also. And I remember the day these photos were taken. It's not me in the picture, but it brought back a lot of memories. I worked at the Ali'i Luau, and I did guest satisfaction surveys, and they made a few changes to the luau venue based on some of the consumer research that I did while I was there. So that was a great experience. I'd like to talk to you about a couple of things today that I think are very important in your success, in your career, and in life that will also make you happy. It's faith and ambition. First thing I'm going to talk about is faith by telling a short story that is a true story that happened while I was there in Hawaii. So I'll flip back to myself here for a second while I tell this story, so it's not a static image. Okay, a very impactful experience when I was in Hawaii. I lived on the North Shore over by Sunset Beach for a little while. Kainui Drive. And like many college students, I didn't have a lot of money or food. There was one day in particular when I remember looking through the cupboards in my kitchen and there wasn't much food there. In fact, all I could find was a can of sour cream and onion Pringles. And it wasn't even a full can. There were only a few chips in the bottom of the can. I was on my way to go be a tour guide at the PCC, so I grabbed the chips and I threw them in the back seat of my Chevy Celebrity station wagon. It was an old white one with red velvet interior, rust, you know, inch of water sloshing around in the bottom, as you've probably seen before. And so I'm cruising down Cam Highway, and I see a hitchhiker. The guy's sticking out his thumb. He looked harmless enough, and maybe it's different now, but back then hitchhiking wasn't really a scary thing. So I decided to pick the man up. I brought him in the car, and he was sitting in the back seat looking at the can of chips. And he says to me, "Hey, buddy, can I have these chips?" And I was hungry at the time, and I didn't have anything else to eat. So shamefully, I actually said no. I said, "I'm sorry. I'm happy to give you a ride, drop you off down the road, but the chips are staying in the car." So I dropped the man off down the road, and I ate my chips, just a few Pringles. And then when I got to the PCC, I was greeted by one of my fellow tour guides, and she approaches me with an outstretched arm holding a can of sour cream and onion Pringles, a full can. And she says, "Hey, Mark, would you like a chip? Help yourself. You can have as many as you'd like." And was that ever a slap in the face? I had just rejected the same thing to that man. And then the story continues when after work I went to visit my girlfriend up on Laie Point, and she's now my wife, and she says, "Mark, while you were at work, I got you a surprise." She then reaches into her grocery bag and pulls out a can of sour cream and onion Pringles, the exact same kind, just for me, a full can. So for me, that was an enormous lesson. My faith had been tested that day. I was hungry and I had hardly any food, and a stranger asked me for my food, and I said no, because I was thinking about my temporal well-being, forgetting that our Father in heaven knows everything we're going through, and he can easily provide for us if we just show faith. And so for me, that was a very impactful experience that happened when I was in Hawaii. And since that day, I feel like I've been much more generous and tried to give much more to people, because I know that our Father in heaven will bless us a lot when we give to people and when we have faith. So I'm going to switch back to the slides here and show you a couple more things here. Well, I want you to remember that story, because something similar will probably happen to you. Another thing I learned while I was there about ambition happened through the SIFE program, and I'm not sure who there is involved with SIFE. It's the Students in Free Enterprise. But I remember walking down the halls one day and seeing a sign in the hall that said, you know, select SIFE students will compete in Kansas City, Missouri for a national competition. You could audition or write a paper to try out then. And I hadn't heard of SIFE before, but it seemed exciting to go to Kansas City and do a speaking competition. So I signed up, and I don't think there were that many people that had auditioned. So I was lucky, and I was able to go on the traveling team to Kansas City. But for me, that was a really great experience, and it helped me learn that signing up and just trying to do things is the way that you're going to be successful. And it doesn't always work like that, but if you just continually put yourself out there and stretch yourself, you will adapt to your situation and succeed. So now I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I've done since I left BYU Hawaii. Well, as I mentioned, I started out in 1996, and a year after my freshman year, I went on a mission to Bordeaux, France. I still remember opening my mission call and running into the cafeteria there on campus and sharing it with my friends. It was one of the most exciting days of my life when I got that call. And I had a great experience in France. It's a beautiful place. There aren't a lot of converts to the church, but it's a great experience. I loved it. After France, I came back to Hawaii. I finished my degree there in international business, and then I didn't have a job lined up when I graduated. I had done a few interviews, but none of them had worked out exactly as I'd hoped for. So I moved to Utah with my wife because that's where her family's from, and we wanted to go back there for a little while. I worked in sales and marketing for a couple of different local companies selling hardwood lumber. And then I decided after a couple of years that getting an MBA would be a great thing to have for my career. I didn't know exactly what I would get out of it, but I had heard that people that had MBAs from good schools, a lot of doors were opened. So I took a leap of faith and I applied, and I wasn't admitted my first time that I applied. The first year I wasn't accepted to the program, but I was persistent, and I applied again the next year, and I got into the BYU program where I studied marketing. So that was a fantastic experience, and it was completely true that it did open a lot of doors for me. After 1 year in the program, I did an internship at FedEx, and they sent me to Arkansas for the summer. And that was a good experience, but I wasn't crazy about the little town in Arkansas, so I kept looking for something full-time for after I graduated. And then I got a job at Dow Chemical, and that was in Michigan. And at the time, my wife didn't know where Michigan was, actually. We had to pull out a map of the country and point it out on the map there. So we moved to Michigan, not knowing anybody. Neither of us had ever been to Michigan before, and we just thought it would be a great experience, so we came here. And while I was at Dow Chemical, I found a niche. I found that I really liked digital marketing, and it was a growing field, and social media. And at the Dow Chemical Company, there weren't many people that were involved in this area. So I started to study on my own and learn everything I could about digital marketing and social media. And then I got a job at Dow as a global digital marketing manager. So I would help the company set up websites and social media plans, advertising plans with Google, things like that. And after a couple of years of doing that, I was going to conferences, and I had some opportunity to represent Dow and speak at conferences. However, it was a limited function within the company at Dow. There were only about 10 people there in digital marketing. So I thought, if I want to stay in this field and continue to progress, I need to go to a company where digital marketing is at the core of what they do. And so I sought out Google, and Google for me was a dream place to work. It was a place I had an ambition to work for a long time. I actually didn't even think it was possible that I'd be able to get a job there. They have over 2.5 million applications, resumes that they receive a year at Google. So the fact that I was found after an application online like that is a complete miracle to me. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but some of the things that I learned along the way that led up to that job, I'd like to share with you now. Okay, this is a picture of me when I was the social media club president up in Midland area in Michigan, and I put a caption that says, "Think of something witty to say." And my natural personality was that I'm not that great at small talk and mingling with people that I don't know and strangers, and I feel like it's something I've had to work on over time. And I've read books on communications and taken courses and things like that. But one thing I'd like to drive home to you is that I truly believe that a big part of the quality of your life is going to be the quality of your communication. How you speak to people, your posture, your body language, everything is very important. Because what you say to somebody and what they understand is not always the same thing. The meaning of your communication is really the response that people give you. So if you say or do one thing and they react in a way that you didn't expect, it means that you're not communicating in a way that this person can connect to. So it's something critical that I'd like to emphasize. And to help you get out of your comfort zone, just start talking and meeting people that you don't even know. Just anywhere you go, just start connecting with people. A couple of other experiences I'd like to share are that I started a blog when I was working at Dow, and I named it Go Huge Today. And the reason I called it Go Huge Today is because I originally thought of the name Go Big Today, and there was already a blog or the URL taken Go Big, so I said, okay, what's bigger than big is huge. And it was a tenet that I thought I could stand by and something I could get passionate about. And that really means that each day in your life, there's something that you can do to make an impact, and in other words, to go huge. There's some way you can influence people. There's a way you can go out of your comfort zone. You can take a risk. You can act as though it were your last day amongst the people that you're currently with. And how would you leave an impact with the people that you're with? So I started writing this blog over a period of about a year, and I was writing stories about examples in my life when I took risks, times when I did something out of my comfort zone and I saw some incredible results. And I even wrote about the story I told you earlier about the can of Pringles that I failed to share, and how that's changed the way I behave now. And I started to live by this philosophy of Go Huge Today. And at work, when I was at Dow, I wanted to go speak at conferences and do things to try to influence more people. And I wasn't given these opportunities by the management. They said, well, you've only been here a couple of years. We have people senior, usually go to conferences, things like that. So what I did is I took initiative, and I found conferences that were looking for speakers. I filled out applications and a summary of what I'd be speaking about, and I applied. And then when I got accepted, then I would take that acceptance and invitation to my boss, and at certain times they would even say, well, that's fine if they want you to speak, but we're not going to pay for the conference to have you go there. So then I would negotiate with the conference organizers and get them to pay for me to go there. And all of this I did because of my personal ambition. There was nobody at work that would pay for me or ask me to go do these things. And I did it because I simply wanted to make an impact, and I was passionate about digital marketing and felt like I could influence a lot of people through this channel. And so I was invited to speak at a conference. Later I applied to write in a publication that was going to be sent out to marketing executives all over the country, which is that middle one there. And then as I was in the gym at work one day at Dow Chemical, I was watching a host of a show on TV, and day after day I would see these shows come on and say, wow, this person really has a cool job. They interview people on TV, they get to meet all these new people, it looks like so much fun. And so they had a TV studio at the Dow Chemical Company, and I went and I talked to the people and asked them if I could be part of one of the shows to host it. And again, they said, well, we already have somebody. We source those jobs outside of the company from professional actors, things like that. So again, I didn't take that as I can't do that. I just took it as I need to find another way to do this. So one day I was walking through the library in town, and I saw in the basement they had a TV studio. It's for our local channel. And I just walked into the studio and saw one of the producers and said, how can I get a show on the air? How can I produce my own show? And so he says, well, what's your idea for the show? And I came up with the idea pretty much on the spot and said, it's a show about social media marketing. It's a booming topic, and everybody wants to hear about it. And I made it sound so great and just kind of made it up all on the spot. And he said, that sounds great. Let's get you in here for training and put you on the schedule. So I literally went in for training and signed up to produce and broadcast my first TV show with no idea of how it was going to work or who I was going to get on the show, how I would get guests on the show, anything like that. And one huge takeaway that I'd like you to take out of our discussion today is that when you plan things and put something on the calendar and decide that you want to do it, our minds, our human bodies are magnificent computers and machines, and we're more capable of doing things than any man-made thing in the world. And our mind can come up with ideas that we never thought were possible. So when that date starts approaching, it's lingering in the back of your mind, and ideas and inspiration come all the time. So I was able to pull together these shows and spread word of mouth, and I did 8 or 9 shows. And then I applied for this job at Google, and they asked me specifically about some of these things. They said, what do you do outside of work that shows you're passionate about what you do, that you have initiative? And over the past year or two, I had this blog that I had written. I had spoken at conferences. I'd been published in this marketing journal, and I had this show. And none of these things were given to me in my job. I was not asked a single time to do any of these things by my boss or anyone at my work. So for me, that was one thing that I think everybody can do. Everybody is capable of some initiative. It doesn't have to be digital marketing or a TV show, but there's something that you're passionate about that you need to find a way to just do it. You just have to find a venue, and people aren't going to come to you and ask you to do these things. You just have to find a way to go do it.